Good morning, Falcons fans. We are live on YouTube, but we're going to bring in our Facebook community. So we've got everybody in here, Atlanta Falcons fans on All Falcons and Scott Kennedy Sports, both Facebook groups. The Atlanta Falcons one's a decent size, maybe 10,500 or so. The Scott Kennedy Sports one is an old one, but, an oldie but goodie. So welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast on a victory Monday after the Atlanta Falcons pick up a 27-24 win over the Chicago Bears. A wildly entertaining game, I would have to say. Lots of back and forth on both sides. Lead changes, 17-point runs, some gaffes, some big plays. Cordero Patterson, always, someone to watch. But it was a costly victory for the Atlanta Falcons. Kyle Pitts is the headliner, being the number 4 overall draft pick, making a Pro Bowl as a rookie. I have some experience with that injury that we saw him have. My playing career was basically ended at 17, hyperextending my knee, which is what he did. I ended up with really bad bone bruises, and I wasn't a professional athlete or anything, so I didn't rehab it and do all the things I should have. But my speed never came back. But I didn't tear my ACL or my MCL. I strained them both really badly, but I didn't tear them, and it was on a hyperextension just like that. When you see the tears come a lot of the times, it's when you go laterally. The knee is not meant to move side to side. This one, it's the worst pain. I've broken a dozen bones in my life. Worst pain I've ever felt in my life was hyperextending my knee and having it snap backwards like that. But his wasn't that bad because he got up and walked. I wasn't able to put pressure on mine for a month. So hopefully his structural in his the ligaments held up, and he could be a week, maybe 2 at most before he comes back. So that one hopefully looks okay. Like I said, I've had some experience with that injury. Taquan Graham getting carted off looks a lot worse. And frankly, I think he has meant more to the Atlanta Falcons this year than Kyle Pitts. I'll just go ahead and say it. I think we're starting to get an idea why Pitts can't get open as much when we're watching Chicago Bears hold him. You think Arthur Smith had a conversation with the referees before the game saying, hey, this guy's been getting held all year? Because he drew 2 flags. Those are as good as first down catches, the holding penalties on Kyle Pitts. But Taquan Graham, for my money, and I want to ask Nick, who has come in here today. Nick, thanks for joining us from Seattle today. We're discussing the loss of Kyle Pitts, how potentially that one could be a little more short-term. That was exact same injury I had when I was 17 and hyperextended my knee really badly. Changed the course of I wasn't probably because I was a soccer player. I was never going to play college anything anyway. But I could fly. I was fast, and I never got my speed back, but I couldn't walk for a month. So, him getting up is a really good sign. From a straight, snap back. It wasn't a lateral injury. But Taquan Graham, for my money, if I'm going down the Falcons' best players this season, it doesn't take me long to get to Taquan Graham. I mean, maybe 3rd, literally. He's been that good for the Falcons here. Chris Lindstrom, Grady Jarrett, and then who? After that, for my money, Taquan Graham has been on that level for the Atlanta Falcons this year.
I'd probably still go AJ Terrell, even though he hasn't been targeted as much. I think you're not. He's still a huge piece of the offense, not getting our defense not getting targeted. And then Cordell Patterson. I mean, hello, thank you for the win today, Cordell Patterson on the special teams. It's good to see some good special teams out there. I mean, one play like that can flip a season. One play like that can flip a game. And what was his 9th kick return for a touchdown?
He now is the sole. He said at the beginning of the season he'd return kicks until if and when he got his record breaker, and then he'd probably stop. He'd probably stop doing it. So that was a record breaker. And what's interesting, Nick, 3 of those 9 have come against the Chicago Bears. And he's done it 3 times against them with 3 different teams. I mean, what are the odds? It's such a freak play.
Yeah.
To return a kickoff anyway, and to do it 3 times against the same team. I would scratch. In my mind, I scratched both of those guys because AJ missed 2 games, 3 games maybe,
Yeah.
and Cordero missed 4. So as far as importance to the team over the course of the season, I'd still give the nod to Taquan Graham. But though I agree with you because AJ and Cordell are both so good when they're out there.
Yeah, Graham
but
gets
the argument's there again. And even
Yeah.
if you add those two and push them down, you're still at 5.
Yeah,
you're still at a top 5 player.
Graham gets a slight punch in this one because of the gaffe that he had against the Chargers. I just like, God, not to talk bad about him when he just got injured because he has been playing at a great level. Also, I think you can make an argument for Drake London as well because I don't even know where your passing offense would be without him. But yeah, I mean, exactly.
I know,
but where would it be without Drake London? So yeah, no, he's been great. I hope he's okay. I guess the best thing here for the Falcons is that I think he'll probably miss the rest of the year. This is just me speculating. Did we know what the injury is? There hasn't been an actual.
No, with Taquan, I mean, it looked like a knee. He was holding his knee immediately, going out on a
cart.
And that's the thing with knees is there's no nerves and ligaments, so there's an initial like pop, and it can scare you.
Yeah.
But you can get up and move. So it's like, oh, it's good to see him walk off on his own. I'm like, guys, that doesn't mean jack squat for a ligament injury.
MRI, baby.
He was carted off. And again, like I said, with Kyle Pitts, the lateral movement is what gets more scary. The buckling or the straight on, the hyperextension where it goes straight back.
Yeah.
That's a lot tougher than an ACL to do damage there. So hopefully he's going to be okay. But I will be a little surprised if we see Taquan again in the next several weeks at best. And it looked like a season ender. Let's say good morning to some folks who've come in now that the chat has opened up just a little bit. Michael Ronquillo is in first. He says, good morning, Nick and Scott on the Falcons podcast. It was a great Falcons win against the Bears. I think this is one of 2 wins that I had penciled in for the Falcons this year at the beginning of the year. But to be fair, the Bears are playing a lot better. Both of these teams are better than where we expected them to be at the beginning of the season. The Bears record may not reflect it, but they're close. The Bears are close. Joe Cannon says, great morning, Scott. Good morning to you. And Terry Ocean Boy Martin is fully excited, double exclamation points with the red and black. He says, good morning, fellas. Good morning to you too. James Hyatt coming in with his Cessna says, good morning, Scott and Nick. Marco Z. Good morning, guys. Great win for the Birds. Sorry about the Broncos' tough loss, Nick. It's comical at this point, though, isn't it?
Oh, my God. It's, what is it called? Where Murphy's Law? Anything that can go wrong will. I guess it looks like the Broncos got no serious injuries in this one, so can't get too upset about that. Also, I'm all in on my Iowa Hawkeyes now. 1 win away from getting beat by 50 versus Ohio State or Michigan or Ohio State. I mean, God, you live for those moments. So no, but it's we're gonna talk about the Broncos after this, so we'll have plenty of time to dig into that.
Yep. And then Make You Fumble says that boy Anderson needs to be our starting middle linebacker. We thought there might be a chance for him to have a couple flash plays, just with considering who they were playing against. That Troy Anderson, he clocked 4. I looked it back up. I thought it was high 4.4s. He actually clocked 4.42 at the NFL Combine, and he's 240 pounds. And we talked about how do you use him where he's not necessarily in a read. Give him half the field. Just don't worry about anything that flows to the left and then bootlegs back out around. Forget it. Let contain back. Take one side, and your job is containment and attack. So on that side, and he had a key 3rd down stop on a play that only he's going to make. That's why you draft 4.4 speed out there. It was only a play that Troy Anderson was going to make, and when it all starts clicking for him, he's going to be really, really good. It was a high pick, 2nd round. There's some other guys you could have taken, but I really like that pick, and I really like his future with the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to take this one real slow because I overfilled my Lion coffee mug, and I need to take the top off it a little bit. Look at that. There's no fake props here like they use in Hollywood when they hand out the empty coffee cups to everybody. This son of a gun is full. So, Nick, Troy Anderson, I was a big fan, and we were a big fan of his coming out of Montana State, but out of Montana.
Yeah, Montana State Bobcats. They had a big win this weekend, high in the playoffs of the FCS. That'll be fun to watch this year. Always love the FCS playoffs. Yeah, but Anderson had a great game. Also, I mean, both your second rounders I thought had solid games. Arnold Ebiketie had a couple key pressures and sacks. Justin Fields, you have to earn it, man, with him in the backfield bouncing guys off. And I couldn't believe some of the play calls there at the end where they're running him when he's obviously injured with that hamstring, but tight on that one. But Falcons hold on at the end and get it. And big key in the game, we talked about it, special teams. I'm going to rail on special teams the rest of the season because I'm just losing my bleeping mind with it. So great play on that. Defense did just enough. And this wasn't a game that, and the Bears obviously were struggling to throw the ball vertically. Justin Fields made some spectacular plays, but not really made the consistent play. And the Bears defense has been horrible. The Falcons did just enough to win that team. But I don't think that this Bears team is better than we thought, but their defense is significantly worse than we thought. And there were some plays left on the field by the offense.
Yeah, they're overall they're not an automatic dub for sure. They haven't quite learned how to win.
Feisty.
And this is one of the things I've said is I think you should take heart, Atlanta Falcons fans. And one of the reasons why I give Arthur Smith a long leash because he's winning these games for the most part. I think that puts him about to 500 this year on one-score games after going 7-2 last year. That's incredible. For one, the Atlanta Falcons, we all know how this team historically does in one-score games. They find a way to falcon it up and lose it. And two, with this roster being built from spare parts and duct tape and draft picks and young guys, watching some of the young guys play out there. Again, you mentioned Ebiketie. Taquan Graham just sucks. That one just hurts. Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Let's see. Anderson, we mentioned him. Richie Grant. Some of the guys out there that are really playing well. There's a couple of misses in there, the Jalen Mayfields of the world, but that happens too. That you're not going to hit on all of them. Antonio Langford says, good morning, fellas. Good morning, Antonio. Appreciate you being in. And Mr. Smith says, Taquan Graham, backup Abdullah Anderson, I believe is his name, did an excellent job. He got a sack and a key run stop. He's starting. Abdullah's been starting for the last couple of weeks. He was a 53-man cut at the beginning of the season, and I wrote up on All Falcons, like, this was a surprise cut. Abdullah Anderson should be part of this team. So they cut him, brought him back to the practice squad, elevate him, signed him, started him. So he's another former Bear. He'd be a really, really good, as you say here, backup. He'd be a good rotational guy, like one of the best, which made him an immediate upgrade over anybody the Falcons had inside last year, not named Grady Jarrett, who was actually playing more of an N and a 3-4. Mm-hmm. So that's still a place where you can get better. But Abdullah Anderson, for the guys the Falcons have been parading through, I wanted to say Swanee. That's how old I am. They moved to Flowery Branch about 15 years ago. Through Flowery Branch, Abdullah Anderson has been, to me, easily the best of those practice squad, one-year vet guys.
I agree. Yeah, he's flashed. He's been fine. He's not somebody that I would be counting on as a starter next season still. I think that probably not enough on the walls. And you also need to start preparing for life after Grady Jarrett. So defensive line still got to be up there for the team building. But Abdullah, for the role he has been good. And this is a opportunity for him going forward, no doubt. Obviously going to have more snaps here, a larger role in that run defense and defensive line. If he steps up, maybe you think, you know what, defensive line, that's a day 2 kind of need right now rather than considering day 1. Obviously, it depends on how the board falls, but still, he's flashed a good bit. Not as much as Graham, not as much as Grady, who have been great 2 players for them, but he's been fine.
That one hurts. It's just like you talk these guys up, and especially when they prove you wrong on this stuff. Because coming in, we were questioning that area. It's like, okay, well, Taquan Graham started a lot last year. It's because he had to. He wasn't very good. Jalen Mayfield, he had to start. He wasn't very good. Adeoye Ogundeji, he had to start. Doesn't mean he was any good. Taquan Graham's freaking good. He took a meteoric leap in the positive direction this year, and hopefully he'll come back and be as good as ever, and he can continue that trajectory. Not continue the trajectory, but at least if he never gets any better than he is right now, he's a 10-year starter in this league. Yeah. He's really good. So hopefully he'll keep it up. Mark Schrader saying good morning. Good morning, Mark. Hope you are feeling well, my friend. It is good to see you. It looked like Timmy Horn was the replacement who is the one who gets a chance to step up. And if I'm not mistaken, he was undrafted, an undrafted free agent, made the team, and shown okay. Again, he's not somebody you want to have in there. That's why he hasn't been in there. You haven't had to throw him in there. Now you do. Now you have to throw him in here. That one hurts a little bit more for I don't know that he's ready. The other one, they only have six defensive linemen on the 53. Timmy Horn, Matt Dickerson, and I looked it up and I was like, I couldn't remember who the other one was. And but it was like it wasn't great. So they're gonna have to add a body for Taquan Graham. Probably Henningsen, Matt Henningsen, or am I getting my Hennessy and Henningsen? Yeah, that's Timmy Horn. That's the wrong team. They're going to have to add a body for Graham because they only had 6 and they lost a guy there. And you'd like to do a little better than Timmy Horn as a starter. I don't know if you're going to be able to this time of year, but Horn played well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got Eric Mack coming in. So I'm not feeling Graham. You got to let us know more why, but he's been pretty darn good for you guys. He's not out there being Jeffrey Simmons or Chris Jones or, elite, but as a 4th round pick out of University of Texas last year. You hope he's okay next year because he is a solid contributor for pennies on the dollar. John Pope coming in saying what's wrong with Taquan. He got hurt or injured his knee and got carted out. So I'm guessing it's probably not going to be great for him this season, but you want to wait. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Eric Mack says, I'm not feeling Graham. All right. Well, again, I've said pretty much every week that I think that the PFF guys for the Atlanta Falcons do a good job. They see what I see. So
confirmation bias.
That's kind of how I grade. I'm like, how do I judge broadcasters? If they say what I see, then they're doing a good job. I mean, it's anyway, I know that sounds arrogant, but I've been doing this a long time too. And NFL for PFF, Grady Jarrett comes in at 26 as overall grade, and I think he's probably been a little bit better than that. Taquan Graham comes in at 27th. So PFF thinks Grady Jarrett and Taquan Graham have been pretty much the same guy. I don't know that I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Taquan Graham has been, if he hasn't been as good, it hasn't been far behind Grady Jarrett. I think he's done a good job too. And John Pope he just joined us because we just talked up Abdul Anderson. Thoughts on him? He's elevated himself into a starting role.
Yeah.
He was a cut he's one that didn't make the 53 man, got re-signed to the practice squad, got elevated. They flexed him, then they signed him to the 53, and he worked his way into a starting position because he's been I don't remember who was in that spot all of a sudden. And but I know he was doing it. They had Matt Dickerson in there at one point. He wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Guys that have been in that spot are now playing in other cities. Tyler Davison played there last year. Mike Pennell, I think he had a tackle for the Bears. He was out there this weekend, or was that the I'm getting my games mixed up again. I remember watching him, and he may have had a tackle against the Broncos. He might be in Vegas.
I do not recall Mike Purnell. Mike Purcell, that's one. No, but we got Marlon Davidson was another one. Yeah, Anthony Rush out there. So yeah, it's
Abdul Anderson's been better than those guys who are now gone. I look, who is the sixth player for the Falcons on that defensive line? Depth chart goes Graham, Dickerson, Horn, Jalen Dalton. No wonder I couldn't think of it. I've covered these guys pretty extensively. I don't know that I know who Jalen Dalton is.
Yeah, that's
number 79. Anybody remember seeing a 79 out there? 79. I don't remember Jalen Dalton out there. The Falcons are going to need another body on the defensive line, and they may elevate somebody from the practice squad. I'll have to pour over that, but they're going to need to bring somebody in for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about this. So circling back to the game, how did the Falcons win a game this close? This is a game that the offense wasn't amazing, the defense wasn't amazing, but you won in the margins in some really key areas that really comes down to coaching. And I mean, I know we've hyped up the scheme of Arthur Smith a lot, but these boys are playing smart football as well. So I want to give a shout out to them in these areas. Number one, penalties. Penalty margin here for the Bears versus the Falcons. If you don't have a explosive, consistent passing game, or even just a consistent passing game, you can't get behind the sticks because a 3rd and 16 might as well tell the punt guys to get ready. So the penalty margin for this team, Falcons, only 2 penalties for 13 yards. I mean, it's hard to do better than that. And then the Bears, 7 for 56. Amazing. Love to see that. The other area where the Falcons we talked about earlier, not putting yourself in a situation where it's harder for you to convert and move the football. The Falcons gave up 0 sacks for 0 yards, obviously 0 sacks. Justin Fields sacked 4 times. So those little things, when your offense isn't consistent in the drop back pass game and you can't really convert on obvious pass situations when it's 3rd and 10 plus, you can't do that. And the Falcons didn't in this game. They end up winning. So those, I think, are 2 major stats on top of the special teams points. I mean, I feel like the team that probably wins in special teams points probably wins 85% of the games or something, not including like field goals and stuff, but like points off of your special teams, kicking, punt or kick return game, probably wins a huge amount of games.
I felt like that one evened out though because of the turnovers on special teams as well. Avery Williams reaching out, trying to get an extra yard, has the ball punched out from him, and then Cordero Patterson turning around and on a run that looked like a kickoff return as he's going through traffic, lost one too. So the 2 fumbles there helped contribute to the 17 points. Yes. That said, the Falcons defense, after that quick turnover from Avery Williams, stood up and bowed up and held the Bears. That was, that is so hard to do. Yeah. The mental part of this game is I say mental, it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy to me how huge of an effect. I mean, you feel momentum and it's like, it's not a physical thing. It's totally mental, but momentum, it's as tangible as a running game, the way it goes. And to be able to go back out there and get a flip, usually those are scores right away. The defense is not mentally prepared to be back out there. That one was big. And Eric says Abdullah Anderson is better than Graham. They play different positions. I would say, if I were to say that Grady Jarrett is better than Terrell, we'd have an argument there. They're different positions. But I think Graham has played at a higher level, and I'm as big an Abdullah Anderson fan as you'll find. I've been talking him up since preseason. Yeah. But I think Taquan Graham has been really, really good this season. I would take Taquan over Abdullah, but Abdullah, again, as we said in the middle of the show, has been the best interior lineman the Falcons have had in 2 years as far as playing that nose when they're in their 3-4. Yeah. He's been the best one they've had in 2 years.
Yeah. 100%. So it was a good game. And I guess the real question for me to you now, pivoting off the win, and we'll circle back to make you Fumble's Corner conversation here, but how much does this quiet the urge and the questions for you with Desmond Ridder? Getting a game against the Bears is just this stringing along one more week. Are you like, okay, back in the winning seat? We saw the Saints win as well, but the Panthers lost. Buccaneers, I think, had a bye week. We're right there in the thick of things still, holding Desmond Ridder at bay.
I don't think it's going to quiet it a ton. It should, just like, it should be one of those things where, listen, I don't have to like it, but I need to accept it now because it's not happening. Yeah. I would like to see, I'm not even saying I'd like to see Desmond Ridder because, like I said, we've got questions are easy, answers are hard. We don't know what Desmond Ridder's looked like in practice this whole thing. We don't know if he's capable of running the read option to the same extent that Marcus Mariota is, which is a big part of what they do on game day. Mm-hmm. So, if they're going to go with Ridder, they may want a full preseason to go with him. So to get him ready so they can tweak the offense to fit him a little bit better, where he's running things for Marcus Mariota right now. They're physically very similar, but they're not the same quarterback. They're both tall, lean, fast, but they are different type of athletes. But every time Mariota has a bad play or a bad pass or a mispass, Desmond Ridder's trending on my timeline. It's not going to change it, but again, at this point, it's like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 games left. You're half a game out of a playoff spot of the first place. It ain't happening. It ain't happening this year. So that's my thoughts on it anyway.
Just keep winning. You'll see. You get another chance at Tampa, right? Heck, just ending the Tom Brady Tampa, the owning of Tom Brady in Atlanta would be great. But we got questions about cornerbacks coming in. Scott, you did what? How much of the South Carolina Tennessee game did you get to watch?
I get real tired of watching
Touchdown
football.
Yeah,
I don't.
me too.
I mean, when it turns into basketball, you've lost me.
Yep. So you're ready for some Big Ten West football.
Yeah. So I turned it off after like the 5th straight touchdown.
Okay.
And just then at that point, then I started watching something else and was just watching scores. I was like, 53, 60, 63.
Yeah.
And then I woke up to the news that Hendon Hooker tore an ACL, and that just sucks.
Yeah.
Feel for him. Hope he's ready. He's kind of an older guy, so he can't really afford to take a year off.
No.
Eric says, when does Casey Hayward come back? He should be eligible because he did IR. It feels like it's been 4 weeks, so he should be eligible to come back to practice here this week, I would think, Eric. We'll double check on that, and we'll hit back on it on Wednesday for sure. But I would think this week. But at Commanders, Steelers, and then a long-awaited bye. It's been a long run. You'll have 13 games before your bye week, but that'll feel pretty good with the last 4 games coming in then.
Yeah.
And as Jason says, he may not be ready. Exactly. That's why I said where he would be eligible to come back to practice, and then they can open up the window on him and evaluate him and see, like they did with Jalen Mayfield last week. He may not be ready either. Oh, and speaking of which, I thought Chuma Edoga did a decent job at left guard yesterday. I was watching, again, I'm just watching the point of attack and seeing, are you getting pushed back or not? And he held his own, and he had a really nice block on a play that went off left tackle where he slid up and got to the second level and sealed a block for a long run off the left side. I'm like, all right, he's doing a job. I thought he did it. I thought he was serviceable, which for your 4th left guard in 4 weeks is pretty good.
Yeah, and he went to USC, correct? Am I wrong in thinking? Okay, I remember him.
Powder Springs, Georgia, which is about 20 minutes from where I grew up. I grew up in the heart of suburbia, where we had 5. At the time, Quad A was as big as you could get. We had 5 Quad A schools within 10 minutes of my house. So when we had to go to McEachern, we were like, that's out in the freaking boonies, man. Now it's like considered, metro downtown Atlanta as much as the urban sprawl. But anyway, he's from Atlanta. Chuma's from Powder Springs, which is a northwest suburb of Atlanta.
Yeah, I always felt like he was more of a kind of a tackle guard hybrid body. So on the move, makes a lot of sense for him to stand out in that one. The question is in the power aspects or the bull rush aspects, given his frame. But talking about the
guard body with tackle athleticism.
Yes, but maybe not guard anchoring strength, which is why 4th string probably. But on the movement skills, excellent to see, especially if you're going to be working that outside zone. Speaking of the guards, want to give a shout out to Chris Lindstrom. Had a few amazing blocks in this one. I saw a couple middle of the season all-pro teams with Chris Lindstrom listed as the number 1 right guard over Zach Martin. He's been playing great. I think Falcons fans, and including us covering the Falcons, need to probably talk about Chris Lindstrom at least, 1 minute or one time a show, because he's been that level of a player this season for this team.
Yeah, and Rich, good morning, Rich. Let's go Falcons. And Blair says, Scott and Alkins get it done this week. Still screaming, rise up. Absolutely. And Jamal says it's victory money. Good morning, Scott, Nick in the chat. We're about out of here. So make sure you come back and hit the comments on YouTube. We're in there afterwards. But Lindstrom, it's almost to the point now where you take it for granted. It's like, okay, he's that good. And you don't talk about him going, oh yeah, what a great game Chris Lindstrom had. It's in soccer, you call it form. Oh, he's in great form. It's not even form. And one of the phrases is form is temporary, class is forever. Or is permanent. And right now he's just class. He's just good. Be interesting to see. And the Falcons will have space to take care of him. And like we said a bunch of times before, if you grew up with the Rankin Smiths, you would just be preparing, okay, who's our next right guard going to be, because Chris Lindstrom's gone. Arthur Blank will pay these guys. Now, hopefully they do it smarter and not like their 3rd contract when they're pushing their 30s the way Thomas Dimitroff did, or a 2nd contract for an inside linebacker and a running back that makes them the highest paid players in the league. But Lindstrom's going to be, I don't know if he gets Quinn Nelson money. but he's going to be, that's going to be a target. He's going to be close.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to get paid. Luckily, they have a lot of money coming off the books. And one last thing before we get on out of here, I saw some cornerback talk. Where I sit right now with this Falcons team, you're going to have a chance to take a good interior defensive lineman, a good edge rusher, or a good cornerback, where you pick. Best of those three positions.
Right.
Obviously, if somebody else falls that you absolutely love, if there's an offensive lineman you love for left guard that can maybe eventually slide out to left tackle, you consider it. If there's a great wide receiver, I don't think it's the best wide receiver class in the first round, you consider it. But right now, edge, interior defensive line, cornerback, pick the best one. Pretty simple.
I would like to have right tackle sewn up before then, because then it becomes, if McGarry ends up in free agency, if McGarry signs somewhere else, then offensive tackle is on the board.
Number one.
You can get a good right tackle later in the draft, but if one's there, you have to think of, if there's somebody there you like at that spot. Again, I would add him to the best player of these positions, and I would include offensive tackle at that point if McGarry is if he signs somewhere else, because McGarry has played his way into another contract for me.
Yeah. Yep. Will be interesting to see how it plays out and what the Falcons do with a very interesting offseason and an ascending team and a big win this week. The Falcons are still in the playoff hunt. They got a chance there. The NFC South is not great, and they got some games in front of them that if they end up taking care of business, you're going to be right there in the thick of things, and who knows from there. So I know, Scott, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we're gonna get out of here because we're going to hop over to Mile High Huddle and talk Broncos for breakfast here in 2 minutes. But looking at it and looking at the results, piss on everybody who's wetting on the NFC South. They got a winning record against the big bad NFC West. So and the weaker teams still have the weaker teams to play. So for me right now, the NFC West is as bad a division as there is in football. The NFC South has a winning record against them so far this year. So the only one who's beaten anybody in the NFC West is it's not the Seahawks. It's not anybody. I don't think anybody has a winning record against the South out of the West right now. It's 500 at best. So the South is standing up and being okay, while the West teams, AFC West and NFC West, they're not getting it done. On that note, we're going to go talk some AFC West and Denver Broncos. You can join us over at Mile High Huddle, and we will be back this Wednesday at 9 a.m. pre-Thanksgiving. Don't forget to watch the United States against Wales World Cup, 2 o'clock Eastern today. That should be on Fox. The World Cup has gotten started, even if you're not a big soccer fan. It's a fun spectacle. It is. It's kind of like the Olympics. I don't watch the 100 meters except once every 4 years. So on that note, appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time.